July 16th, 2026. You know why you're here, so let's kick this off right and introduce the players. Hey, I'm Gerissar, a WoW esports aficionado who forgot to turn on his lamp.
Hey, I'm TreesapJake, and I do have my lamp on, but I'm also a big fan of the Spanish football team, Vamos España. And you may be wondering why that is the case, and unfortunately, very unfortunately, England crashed out of the World Cup yesterday.
I never took you for being a bandwagon jumper.
A bandwagon jumper? Would I be jumping on a bandwagon if I was supporting Spain, for example?
Well, that's the thing. You hopped off the, because you're a diehard Brit, right? Like you were team England all the way until this weekend, or until yesterday, really. So why you hopping to Spain all of a sudden?
Because English history versus the Spanish, it's very muddied. There's a lot of conflict. However, the Argentines try to take our rightful claim, our rightful land that we own very close to them. So without going deep into the political drama, Viva España, or Vamos España. There we go.
Oh my God. Okay. All right. I didn't realize that you were a Margaret Thatcher fan. Okay. On to more. Let's get out of IRL. We're all about conflict. We're about PvP, right? So,
indeed.
The Falklands War is probably more recent history of a, I guess if you call it, British success in war.
True. One might say very similar to an arena game. It didn't last very long.
No, it did not.
Comparison.
It did not.
So that's one thing you can always. Sorry, go on.
Blows were struck, though, both sides.
Indeed, they were. Indeed, and that's why I think, much like the Falklands War, we can forget about our past woes and focus on the future, which is now. Okay. But speaking of things that are old, Gerissar.
Yes.
Things that are old, and I'm not just talking about this game. I'm talking about, in fact, my tweet.
Yes. Yeah.
Which is
3 years?
Crazy. 3 years. 3 years of my life I've spent almost every single day tweeting a very select few people. I've had a lot of people say to me, it's AI. You've clearly set something up. You've got a bot doing this. And I can absolutely assure you it is me every day copy and pasting and changing a few things every single day. It is incredibly taxing. It takes more than 1 minute of my time to do so. But I think the main point about it is that I've consistently been doing it.
I think I can tell when you can consistently use the toilet.
Yeah, you know what? Actually, you've sort of nailed that on the head. There is definitely a period of time where I have to be in the toilet for at least 5 minutes. So it's a good time to distract yourself and go, oh, you know what I haven't done today? Oh, I haven't done the tweet. Let me go. I can do that now. So
I feel for the days when you're constipated, because then you end up missing. So it's like 2 in 1 day.
I'm not even thinking about the tweet at that point. At that point, I'm just struggling. But no, it's definitely a long time to do. I think one of the things that I think is very positive about this podcast in general is that it's kind of a place for people to be able to go to listen to those with experience and those with interest to kind of talk about that, especially when we've got guests on that main a specific class or have big insight into the competitive aspect. I think it's a really useful thing. And that's the joy of the internet, the joy of access to podcasts and access to information, is that you can actually go about and find out things that you've always wanted to know. For example, we had the distinct pleasure last time of talking to Adrian, aka Healing Stat. Now, Healing Stat, I watched play BlizzCon.
Yeah.
When I was much younger, and that's incredible and really, really fun. That now I have the opportunity to speak with him and pick his brains, especially as a fellow Englishman.
Indeed, I think that's one thing that I enjoy about our podcast too. Is like, yes, we bring in some streamers sometimes, but they are, I don't know, they're busy people, and usually people have pretty good access to them. But there's some people that are pros that don't stream, or they're not as active. So then we're able to get them. And honestly, like, most streamers are playing the game, right? Yeah, they can answer some questions that, but it doesn't really get into depth, and that's where we can really get into the depth stuff. So just on that, so obviously we did change the format just recently. Well, recently, geez, that was almost a year ago, right? So we went from, you know, always having these guests and doing some very detailed analyses to more casual conversation. That said, I mean, some people have expressed, especially with Ox joining us recently to talk about the or not Devo, Devourer Demon Hunter. That was great, and it kind of raised again. People are like, hey, we really like that. So I think, you know, we'll spice it up a bit. We'll be, you know, definitely get more into the technical. We've been a little bit more on the casual side lately. So I was thinking about this, and more recently, like, so if you look at the ladder, everybody complains about either demon hunters. They talk about RMP and the issues they have with RMP, and obviously the melee comps. Demon hunters, you know, in there as well with the melee comps, but you know, you have Ret-Warrior and a few others. So I was thinking, like, so they always talk about, well, occasionally it's talked about with the meta how there's always like a paper rock scissors moment, right? Like, this comp beats that comp beats the other comp, and then you have this circle of comps that beat each other. But the way people were talking earlier in the season, that it was like RMP beats them all. Is that still the case? Because I'm not totally convinced anymore.
It's a really interesting topic, and I think, you know, it's a shame that we don't have the biggest Moran here today, because what obviously Big Moran is very, very good at sort of taking a very clinical look at things, and plus he's probably the biggest RMP shill, which is great. And I'm the biggest RMP hater, so we can kind of argue about what's what. And I think he definitely provides a sort of a side to it. Do I think RMP is the sort of the big winner? And I do think that in reality, Rogue and Mage right now, with the way that the DR works, if you don't know, DR's reset after 16. It used to be 18, as far as I'm aware.
Yep.
And that change in itself, in a minute, has given, I think they worked it out where it's sort of like, actually you can get maybe like 1 or 2 more extra cheap shots in now than you could have done when it was back up at 18. So what that means is that Rogue has a lot more ability to control the game, because they have almost an unlimited access to cheap shot and stuns, including kidney shot, which is still a 6-second CC. Mage, who have a spammable CC, because I think actually at the minute, with the way that the DR works, spammable CC is king. Spammable CC is the most OP thing in the game for not only peel, but also controlling the healers and putting them in insane CC chains. And they are able to utilize this to their maximum effect.
Yeah.
So if you are, for example, a warrior who is attacking a mage and you get rooted, and then you finally 5-6 seconds you get out of that root, or you get polymorphed, you then go into a root. You're then stuck in that for a bit, and by the time you've actually caught back up to the mage, you're back off DR and you're into another full polymorph. So I think Rogue Mage has basically everything that you could possibly want. It has the most insane peels, and the classes that have arguably some of the best defensives, and also the best CC chains and peels. So I think, in my opinion, our Rogue Mage is still the best. Are there counters to it? Possibly. And I think some of the big counters to it are specs that are able to basically find a way around this rampant amount of CC. In my brain, that's jungle. Jungle has always been a very strong Rogue Mage counter, and I think even to this day they still are. I think otherwise you could possibly look at Cupid, and you could probably look at Ret-Warrior. I also do think that there are other comps that work really, really well against Rogue Mage, as long as they go as long as they can kind of stay on top of their enemy. But that is kind of like a hands diff. That is like actually the skill of the player is far better represented. But if you had two equal teams, I think RMP is king, just for the way that they have the control.
Interesting.
So that's my opinion on that. Okay. Now, whether the data reflects that is an entirely different thing. So I think is the way to look at it. So we've got some little bits of data here, which, as far as I'm aware, is based off of the top. It's the top end of the ladder on the US, so the North American server. So interestingly enough, RMP has a 48.3% win rate.
Yep.
Which one might say is actually quite low.
So I want to point out that's the sub variant.
Yes.
The assassination variant has a 52% win rate.
Which is kind of crazy, actually, if you think about it, because I feel like it flies under the radar. But they've got almost as much control as the sub rogue without the burst window, but then far more damage.
Yes.
And with a mage kind of giving that uptime, giving that, that damage, that CC chains, you can full kidney a healer into a full sheep, into a half sheep, into a fear. And that is, to be honest with you, probably about 16 seconds worth of CC in a way.
100%.
Or at least 11 to 12 seconds for sure.
100%.
So it's a long time. In fact, actually, I think the only other time in WoW that we've had such long CC chains was back in MOP. I think MOP was quite notorious for these very, very long CC chains that were, like, for example, it was the reason why God Comp, which is Frost Mage and Shadow Priest, was so strong back then, because they could literally put you into 16 seconds of CC and then refresh it on the DR very easily if you weren't able to stop it. So I think there's a lot to take there and see, like, actually, you know what? RMP doesn't seemingly look like it's the strongest, but it's probably because a lot more people play it. And I think you can kind of see that as well. So if the RMP of the sub variant, there's 1,845 games.
Yeah.
So I think that's a 3.1% play rate from what it says. That's a whole percent higher and about 600 games more than the next highest one, which is Ret-Warrior. So which I think is interesting, because I don't know what you feel about this, Gerissar, but obviously Rogue Mage, I think, does have a higher skill ceiling, and I think Big Moran would be saying this right now, that it has got a higher skill ceiling. But I think a lot more people want to pick it up because they know it's OP, and therefore they don't do very well, which I think you can see reflected in.
Yeah. I don't know. I have to counter those. That I think Ret-Warrior does have a bit more skill to it than people give it credit for, especially because Ret has, I mean, it's such a utility bot versus actually being able to do worthwhile damage, that like it ends up being such a longer game, right? That you have to make sure you don't overlap, make sure that you're able to line the goes of your opponents and counter those to get to that spot where now you're into the dampening. Now you're like, 4 or 5 minutes into the game, and then you're at your win condition, right?
I think there's definitely a lot more skill to all comps, I would say, than people give it credit for. Like, let's be realistic. If you play, I don't know, I'm playing a comp with my friend Joe Blogs, and Joe Blogs is playing, I don't know, Windwalker Monk, and I'm playing DK, and we're playing The Walking Dead, and we're getting absolutely blasted by every single Ret-Warrior player. I'm definitely saying to my teammate, you know what? These Ret-Warrior players, they're so disgusting. They have the easiest time. And on the flip side, that Ret-Warrior has had to play out of their absolute minds not to get blown up by either the Windwalker or the DK. Absolutely. And I think there is definitely a lot more nuance to each comp, which I think you start to understand. Like, I always think warriors are super OP. I play a warrior, I can't move, I can't get away, I'm stuck in roots forever. Whereas every other warrior I play into is seemingly, Rambo. They just appear out of nowhere. They're always on me. And I think it's always a perspective thing. So, you think, oh, they should never be on top of me. And when you're playing that class, you're like, well, why can't I ever get on them?
Yeah.
So you got to give them credit where credit's due. I do think it is difficult, but I do also believe that Ret Paladins, in the way that they are built since the rework in Dragonflight, do give so much to their teammates that allows them to live. And I think that's 100%. The reason why Ret-Warrior is doing so well. It's not the beast that it was in Shadowlands. In Shadowlands, it was just unhealable damage. Now it's like the warrior does loads of damage, but the Ret just keeps them up. And you've got to get through all the healing, lay on hands, spell bop,
all the
more
freedoms.
Healing,
all the freedoms.
All the freedoms. Well, they've only got the one now, thankfully. They don't have the double one, but they can still share it. So the Ret and the warrior can stay on top of you.
Yeah.
But their biggest counter, to be honest with you, is probably Rogue-Mage, because the mage steals the freedoms. The rogue controls both of them, and they absolutely blow up that warrior in a stun. They sheep healer, kidney shot the Ret, and then they blow up that warrior. But I think the point. Sorry, I'm going on a rant now, but essentially, what I think is that they are a lot more complicated, and every spec has its difficulty. But that's why I think when people say RMP is easy to play, it's not. You've got to line it up. But it definitely, once you're good at it, that high skill ceiling really pays off.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, the Cupid Cleave, Pally, Hunter, Priest, that has a 50% win rate, or 50.5, just over 1,000 games, 1.8% win rate. But I was hearing some people talking about that, and that just eats RMP. Now, they lose to Ret-Warrior, but they eat RMP.
Yeah, I think Hunters have always had a strength over Rogue-Mage. I think in this instance, because we're looking at Beast Cleave, it's not Beast Cleave, Beast Mastery Hunter, so BM Hunter as opposed to Marksman. I think BM Hunters, it's kind of nuts how their AI pets work, and it feels like they just run at you at 1,000,000 miles an hour. So I think when you've got a mage that's sort of like trying to get away and is trying to root stuff, they've got I think they've got Master's Call, which I think freedoms them from this, so they have quite a lot of uptime, which is only ever increased by the Ret Paladin being on top of you. And one of the things I've noticed as well, and I didn't even know this was a thing, but when Consecration goes down, which I think is the name of it, that Ret Paladin, the kind of thing on the floor. What's the name?
I think it's Consecration.
It is Consecration, right? Yep. I'm not going crazy then.
Nope.
When that goes down, which I think they get from using one of their regular spells, it creates kind of like a reverse Death and Decay, where it actually, not a reverse Death and Decay, but it basically gives them a sort of freedom from snares and slows you. So I didn't even realize this. That was really, really difficult to deal with. So, sorry, go on.
Sorry, I thought they got rid of the slow on Consecration.
No, there definitely is some form of slow on it, because when I walk in it, I am slowed.
Maybe that was the Holy Paladin then.
It might be Holy Paladin, but for Ret Paladins, for sure, there is something that slows me. However, I think with all of that in mind, you have an unstoppable force that just completely and totally destroys mages. They've got all of the kind of defensives that Ret-Warrior has because of the Ret Paladin, but then you've also got a Purge from the BM Hunter and the Priest. So you can get rid of the shields. You got a Priest that can amass the spell, the ice blocks, and then you've got one of the best CC chains in the game, which is obviously Stun Trap. So 3-second stun into, if they're playing Diamond Ice, obviously it's a 5-second trap, but if it's the full one, it's a 7-second trap. And you sit in that for at least almost 10 seconds. On top of that, you then get into a Fear, which doesn't DR.
Yeah.
So you've got a very, very long CC chain that you've got every 30 seconds pretty much.
Exactly.
And that's really tough. And for Rogue-Mage, they've got a lot to survive, but at some point they're going to blow through all their cooldowns. And it's whether can they kill something? Can they kill the Paladin? Can they kill the BM Hunter? Can they do a big swap to the healer? Are they able to burst through that or do enough damage with their own CC chain? And that's the difficulty. So yeah, I can understand. It's the reason why I think jungle is a big RMP counter, is because they've got stuff that can't be CC'd properly, like the Feral. And then you've got Hunters that just do the most damage to mages.
Yeah. I feel hunters also have the ability, because of the pets, that they can stay on the rogue mage, so they can't reset as much, right? Because that's the whole thing with the, between their goes, they try to run back to a pillar usually, until they can go and reset.
Mm-hmm.
At least that's the way it has been. I know, like you said at the beginning of this, the CC change has allowed for rogues to basically always be ready to go, and the next chain is right there after 16 seconds. Um, but I feel like that's the one thing that the hunters have, is that those pets can keep on them, until the players are able to catch back up, and then and re-engage with the team while they're trying to wait for the next go. Which I actually find interesting, because I always thought that was what Frostmage brought against Beastmasters, because they could freeze, they could root the pets, they could freeze them away over there, and then be far enough away that the pets weren't doing anything. So I guess, is it because of the Ret that the pets can stay on top of the targets too?
I think BM's got Master's Call that allows you to freedom them,
Right.
and I have a feeling that during Bestial Wrath. Now, I'm not the expert on this. I think during Bestial Wrath as well, they can't be. So I think there's a lot of aspects which allow the BM, because realistically speaking, a lot of that built is built into the AI pets. I think they get a lot of uptime with their pets,
Yeah.
which is very difficult for the mage to deal with. But the mage does have a lot of roots, so you would think they would be difficult to deal with. But I think the uptime from the Ret, the freedoms, and everything, but it's mostly the defensives that the Ret brings on top of its own damage.
Yeah.
That kind of allows them and gives them the uptime. So Cupid definitely is strong, and it's very hard to kill. I think is the big thing. Sort of there is what do you kill in that comp? You'd have to kill the hunter, and if that's the case, then you've kind of got to go into the middle of them all, and the mage has to be in range.
Yeah.
So it's a difficult one, but I think that's why it's the same reason why I think jungle is so good into them, because the feral, as long as the feral plays well and shifts into bear form every single stun, they're going to live it. Like I've seen ferals live for a really long time.
Yeah, you're not wrong.
But obviously, if the trade off there is if they get caught out of bear form, then it is over. So, but the hunter does a lot. I think the CC chain, on top of the amount of damage that they do, the amount of free damage that they do, and the survivability added with the Ret, that would be an RMP counter. But I do think that a good RMP versus a good Cupid, I think, to be honest with you, I think the RMP's got enough in there that it might cause an issue. I still think they're it's the strongest comp, but I just don't think it's played well outside of the highest level. I think you could just look at the AWC with Echo. I think they always kind of default back to RMP, and they just play it better than anyone else.
Yeah, you're not wrong. They really make it shine. Now, one thing I noticed is the difference that a healer makes. So a bunch of these have priests, and it looks like the disc seems to be the favored. But there's one with the one Ret-Warrior comp that they have that 50% win rate was with Preservation Evoker. So I'm wondering what does Preservation bring in that the disc isn't.
So I think the disc has extra damage and has shielding, and has you can press pain suppression and stuns and things like that, and obviously has the ability to purge and use master spell, things like that. So it has a lot of utility. But realistically speaking, Ret-Warrior don't need that, because the warrior can just take Shattering Throw if they're facing mages. The Preservation has Spammable Fear, which, as I said earlier, is king. It's so good, not only just for peeling, but for performing CC. It's very hard to lock down. Every time you press hover, you get like a 3-second CC immunity. So you can really outplay people in the way that they try and come and CC you. So a lot of the time, people kind of look to do it after someone's used hover, after the 3 seconds are done. Then they'll commit. But you have insane healing, and then you also have You've got 2 walls as well that stop you from being silenced. You have time dilation, which I think you have 2 charges of.
Yep.
You have I cannot remember the name of it now, but the one basically where you do a load of healing whilst you're stunned. I can't remember the name of it. It will come to me at some point.
Oh, Emerald Communion?
Yeah, Communion, that's it. So Emerald Communion you do, which is huge. And you're able to grip and take people away. You've got knocks. It's insane. You can tell the list is already going on. Preservation is the best healer in the game. And especially when you've got 2 melee grouped up together who are also unkillable because of the Ret Paladin, it's just a very, very good comp. Can it lose? Absolutely it can, but it's a very, very strong comp.
Fair enough. And obviously, I mean, 50%, I mean, that's a really good win rate, but
it is.
It's not, it's still flipping a coin every time you get into an arena. I'm wondering, so really what we're looking at here is you have your RMP, you have your Ret-Warrior, and then you have your Cupid Cleave, the Ret Beastmaster. So which one beats which then? So I think we said Cupid beats RMP mostly, give or take a bit.
Yes.
And then what? RMP beats Ret-Warrior? Ish?
I think it's a bit more complicated than that, but I do think Ret-Warrior loses to RMP. And I think Ret-Warrior beats Cupid.
Okay, so that's the circle then.
Yeah. Oh, but then it could also be the other way around. It's definitely like it entirely depends on skill, but I suppose that's kind of a cop out because that's the same for anything, right? But I do think that the skill ceiling is so high with RMP that I think even into a counter comp you can beat them if you line up everything perfectly, which is what I think is what works for them because they've got the spammable CC. Like all 3 of those comps have a form of spammable CC. Whether it's, well, I say spammable CC, I'm including the Hunter traps as spammable CC because they are insanely strong. So that would be the way I look at it. I might be wrong. Big Moran might tell me otherwise. In fact, if you're listening right now, feel free to @ me on Twitter at TreesapJake. No, but seriously, I think all 3 of these comps are probably the 3 best comps in the game. I actually think there's a sleeper comp underneath this, which is Thunder Cleave, which is if you don't know, Ellie Shaman, Arms Warrior X, probably with the Preservation Evoker, but I think Mistweaver also works really well. I think that comp in itself is very sleeper. I think Ellie does a lot of damage at the minute, and I think Warriors also do loads of damage, and bringing Sharpen as well. It does a lot. Do I think it's AWC worthy? Probably not, but it's definitely a comp that a lot of people have been having success with and is kind of flying under the radar, mostly because all you see on the ladder will be Ret-Warrior, RMP, Cupid Cleave. Jungle, you see a lot of Hero Cleave as well, which if you don't know what that is Demon Hunter, so Havoc Demon Hunter and Unholy DK. That's very, very strong. So there's a lot of comp variety, which I will say is not something we always enjoy, or at least not enjoy, but kind of we don't have access to because of the way that a lot of the seasons have gone. We have a lot of variety nowadays. A lot of people play a lot of different things. It's just a shame that most of them tend to either have a warrior or a mage or rogue at the minute, because those are the strongest. Or sometimes a devourer as well. Come on, we've got to say it. Yeah. Say it with me. Devourer DH is OP. No, I say that to trigger all the.
Oh, yeah. What? No. Yeah. It's fine. It's fine.
It's totally fun. It's totally fun.
I have to admit, when I queue up and I'm doing solo shuffle on the Devourer, I feel disgusting sometimes. Like just.
What spec do you play when you play the Devourer?
Oh, I use Ox's spec there that he gave us.
Oh, did you? Okay, so you're playing Void Scarred.
Yeah, Void Scarred 25.
Nice.
Or not 25, sorry, 35. 35 souls. So yeah, so it's pretty quick uptime, and it's absolutely disgusting just watching somebody pop. I giggle and I feel gross at the same time.
It's really funny because when we had Orcs on to talk about Devourer, and I think it's a good point to make as well, talking about. We've talked about a load of popular comps. I suppose now we're sort of talking about ones that maybe aren't so popular. But obviously, Orcs, who is my arena partner, plays Devourer. But when he first started playing it, or when we were playing it very early on in the season, a lot of people were playing what's called the caster build, which is where you go Annihilator and you look to make big damage in your meta window, because you have to get up to 100 souls before you can do it. And then it just does huge amounts of damage perpetually for like a good 30 seconds.
Yeah.
Whereas he was playing, because he likes one shots and he likes blowing people up, he was playing Void Scarred and kind of cooked his own build, which now a lot of people use, where I think you've only got to get to, you say 30, or you start at 35, or you've only got to get to 50.
You start at 25, and then you have to get to 35, and then once you spend, you're down to 0, and then
yes. So you've kind of got, it's kind of like a shorter window, like a bit more of a bursty window, but you do loads and loads of damage in a shorter space of time. And I think that works really, really well. So it's actually really nice that in one spec you have a variety of different playstyles, which I think is what Blizzard had entailed when they came up with this with Dragonflight, with the talents in Dragonflight, is that they wanted people to have a bit more flexibility than the old style talents, kind of very similar to how they were in original WoW. And I actually think, by the way, slightly off topic, I think the talents are a fantastic success. I think the Dragonflight talents are wonderful. I think they're really good.
I agree.
And I definitely don't want to go back to the old style talents, because the ones that we have now are really good. I think it would be nice, though, if they had considered more and more, like kind of like what you have actually in the Devastation Evoker tree, that down the left-hand side, you've got like your blue spells, and down the right-hand side, you've got your red spells, and that how each one should, in theory, have a different sort of play style. I think that would be really cool if we had a bit more nuance in that. But that's why I think the Void Scarred one works really, really well. But that is an OP spec at the minute. So
it is. I just want to spin off that for a sec on talent builds, and that I do enjoy the talent trees that they have right now to a point. I find that some of them, or all of them, there's a lot there, so it feels complicated until you start going in and you realize that some of it's just like stuff that should already be baked into a spec, like, you know, plus 2% more haste, or plus 2% more mastery. You know, add a little bit more damage to your damage spells, right? and all it's just filler. So in that, yes, there's a lot of customization you can do. There's a lot of stuff you can play around and have fun with, probably in ways that Blizzard never intended, but have fun. That said, I am worried that whole talent system, while designed for Dragonflight, is not going to live past the trilogy, right? So I think right now with Midnight, they've added in the last little bit. Next expansion, we're probably going to see some other little blip, another little thing to, you know, a little bit of more power, if you will. And then once we're done this whole thing, I think it's going to be, I think they're gonna have to revamp it, right? It's gonna, because there's gonna be too much. It's gonna be too much bloat. It's just, and then everybody's just gonna cookie cutter. And Ox, don't tease us in chat. That apparently hasn't been a more disgusting build. So great. All right,
we're cooking. We're cooking. No, but I think you're right though, Gerissar. Though, like I think when you're talking about the bloat that could come in the last Titan, I think there's so much. Like, I really like how they've done with the talents. I really do. I think, but there is a lot of bloat. Like, we had in the War Within, we had the hero talents come in. And then in Midnight, you've got an extra number of points that you can put in, and extra other little talents that kind of come in. What's going to go on the last Titan? Are we going to get even more? Because let's face it, in reality, these are borrowed powers. You know, at the end of the day, to a degree. It's a form of borrowed powers, even though they're saying it's part of your spec. It's kind of borrowed, because at some point those are going to go. And I think how they're going to do it, and it's quite clear now that we're in the second part of it, is that whatever that comes after the last Titan trilogy, wherever WoW goes, they will keep doing this thing where they want to build up in trilogies. They want to start off with a hero talent that we got in the War Within, that builds up over time, that by the end of that trilogy, you've got something that's meaningful, and that's now baked into your kit. I think what they have done is they've really kind of it's just more passives and more percentages that they've put on top of what already exists. And what I miss is what we had in Legion, which is, yes, it was a borrowed power system, but they came up with a cool new ability for your class that was the big thing for that expansion that made it like fun. And then that became part of your kit. For example, from Druids going from vanilla into TBC, they got Cyclone. And that was a big, big part of their kit that changed.
Yeah, huge.
And I think we don't have that really anymore. We keep going through different kinds of reworks. Everything gets reworked. Either something gets super OP, or it's just like it doesn't exist anymore realistically. Like, I don't mind the DK changes, but they completely change. That spec has gone through that class has gone through so many changes to how it works. It's completely unrecognizable. I suppose everything's kind of unrecognizable from like from like when they first arrived or when they first when they first were introduced. But it's like you kind of lose a lot of identity. And what I would love, at least from a PvP aspect, is bring us back something like a cool ability that we can have. But I don't think that's ever going to happen. At least not now.
Well, I don't know. I counter that there's a number of specs that have had some pretty cool abilities added to them, and it's become their core kit. Just like I think Marksman was pruned back so hard, it's almost it's a whisper of what it was back in Dragonflight, or even the War Within. I heard they're getting Scattershot back, which is kind of nice, or maybe that's Survival. Anyways, between the two of them. But I heard that they're reworking Marksman yet again, and it's still not fun to play, not as fun as it used to be. And I'm not sure if that's just because the ability to just blow somebody up is reduced, or if it's instead of pressing 5 buttons to blow somebody up, it's really just 2 buttons, maybe 3, and it's just interlaced on how you drop those things.
Well, I think the Hunters getting scatter back is a kind of big thing. It's a big part of their identity as a class. Still an annoying ability, but this time it's not coming back baseline. It's coming back as a PvP talent, which I think is a big difference, because what Hunters will have to do is they will have to prioritize what they're dropping. They'll have to drop something from their current to get something that's useful. True. Now, I will say that there are a lot of classes that have very useless PvP talents. If you don't have the main 3, you're not sure what else to pick, because the rest are totally terrible. So it's quite good for Hunters. Actually, I think we're one of them where they didn't have like a huge amount of good PvP talents, but they do have some nonetheless. Now that they can choose Scattershot, it's another aspect of CC, another aspect of Peel, that kind of thing. True. I do think they've got a lot anyway, but we will see. I guess it forces them to pick something else. So overall, I think it will be a positive thing for Hunters, but it's a shame that Marksman is getting reworked again, because I think, realistically speaking, well, I mean, maybe they need it, because it's just always been such a spec that kind of just either does so much damage or flops, and that can't be fun, right? Like someone lining all your damage and you do nothing, and then you just fall over. So I can understand why. There's got to be a way through.
I feel like part of the problem right now, especially with class design and Blizzard, is that they're so busy using metrics that there'll be like the few players that can really just make a class shine or make a spec shine, and then there's other people that are behind that are filling the metrics, but maybe don't have the wherewithal, the nuance, the capability to really make that spec shine. And so you have the people that can just do disgusting damage and make somebody just pop into green mist, and then so they're complained about. But in the meantime, again, back to why when you play warrior you're always stuck in roots, but whenever you're up against a warrior they're always on you and you can't seem to stop them, right? Same thing. You have these people where maybe it's because There's a bunch of people that just know the burst window of the spec and are able to make the spec look really good until they're lined or something like that. And because they didn't have X talent, because they didn't think about putting it, moving that other talent and, getting Sentinel or doing something that allows them to be a bit more mobile or whatever, that they're able to be lined. They're able to not get the damage out, even though they probably could have the capability if it was an open field. But I don't know. It's great to have data to make decisions with, but it's also, I really hope that they are categorizing the metrics that they have to make sure it's like, okay, these are the people that can just do disgusting, amazing things, and these are the people that can do a lot of that same stuff, and then here's the people that are just the lemmings and using the Wowhead cookie cutter or whatever's on the Hunter Discord and going with it and doing good, but not excelling. You know what I mean?
Yes, I know exactly what you mean. I also think that they tend to hyper focus on reworking popular specs.
Yeah.
Because, for example, I don't think Shaman has been touched, like, at all.
Nope.
All 3 specs. And it's not because it's not popular. So no one picks it. Rogues, mages, they all get changes all the time, and it's always positive. It's kind of what I say to people a lot, is that the specs that have 3 DPS specs for PvP will always have something great. But the specs that have 2 damage specs and a healer, or just 1 damage spec, it's horrid. It's horrible, because you either have 1 good spec or you have no good specs. I mean, at the minute, Shaman is doing all right because Enhance and Ellie are good, but they're not the best. They kind of need a warrior, either way, to make them super good.
Mm-hmm.
And that's kind of sadly the state of things, is that realistically speaking, in World of Warcraft, if you've got a mage, a rogue, a warlock, or a warrior, pair it with anything else and it will work, because those 4 specs are the most broken in the game because of their utility and because of their damage, and they just are always super good. And even when they're not good, they just have so much like ability to kind of just do things, like utility wise. Like Sharpen is always going to be useful. 50% healing reduction for 6 seconds is always going to be useful. So there's a lot of utility and a lot of ability to affect the game from those specs, plus spammable CC for at least 3 of them: warlocks, mages, and rogues. So I think that's the king. I think the be all end of it is, if you play a spec that has spammable CC currently, you will have a great time because of the way that the DRs work. You get 2 on someone, either you get poly into a DR poly on that person. That is 8 seconds worth of CC. You've only got to wait another 8 seconds and they're off the DR. You can do it all over again. And I tell you what, those 8 seconds go by so fast.
Oh yeah,
you blink and it's done.
Yeah, that's far too many globals to survive, especially with the burst that we see in the game today.
Yes.
One last thing I want to talk about. So I don't know, did you see this change in 12.1 about knockbacks?
Yes, I did. And in fact, Gerissar, I actually queued with someone that plays very high level Blitz the other day. Me and Orcs did, actually. And he sent us a Twitch clip of that basically happening to him, in which he basically got feared, and then he got brought up to, he got, I thought, either gripped, or it was the Evoker one where they grab enemies, brought up to the side, got feared, and then knocked through the terrain and into nothingness underneath the battleground during a Blitz game, and got DC'd.
Yeah. And then you can't get back in because you're DC'd. So
yeah, exactly.
So for anybody that's not tracking, they're making a change in 12.1 where if you're in CC, knockback will no longer affect you. So essentially, this is the fix that Blizzard is putting in to stop people from abusing a bug and knocking people into the world to then take a Blitz game from 8v8 down to 8v7 or lower, because they can do that to multiple people, and essentially create a win just due to overwhelming numbers. So I think, I mean, smart change. Took way too long. This should have been done back in 11 dot whatever, back when, because this was even happening back in RBGs, right?
Yeah,
So
exactly.
The question then is that if they're bringing this, if they're putting this in, is going to negate falling through the world, are we going to start seeing arena maps come back like Blade's Edge?
Well, this is the thing. I don't think they've fixed that issue. They've just basically stopped people from CCing and knocking, which, realistically speaking, is a massive nerf to certain specs. For example, Elemental Shaman, Fire Mages, and Preservation Evoker, because they can no longer basically sleep and knock people off. I think also this is a nerf to monks, because I reckon they can't do this with Ring of Peace now as well.
I'm not sure.
But that's something that would have to be experimented with either on PTR or next patch. But there's a lot of specs that basically, for example, one of the key things you do as Windwalker Monk is that maybe you sap someone on as they walk near the edge with Paralyze and then knock them off with Ring.
Yeah.
Will that still be able to happen now that they've got Paralyze, or are you just going to have to wait for them to come out of the CC? Who knows? But I think it's a Band-Aid fix. I think, realistically speaking, they should just stop people from being launched through terrain to then get DC'd. I think, realistically, that should just not be a bug that they have. And it's the same with the MC bug. That shouldn't exist. That you can basically disconnect someone by putting them next into a wall, because people do that. Yeah. I've had games in Arena where people have purposely tried to do that to me.
Wow.
At 2.1, like, it's crazy. So. Yeah, it's a Band-Aid fix, but I think in general it's a nerf to some other classes that have used that in Arena.
Absolutely. This is also going to nerf, because that was the whole use of BG Blitz, where Eye of the Storm, Twin Peaks, you could knock somebody off the sides into the canyons, right? And then either especially if they're a flag carrier, right? So now
the big one is Lumber Mill from Arathi Basin, where I remember watching my friend Bobby DK when you're streaming it. He'd bring an enemy healer to the side, and then he would use Blinding Sleet, so that would stun him, and then the Preservation Evoker he was with would jump over and then wing flap and knock this person off.
Yeah.
So that is not going to be not a thing anymore. So that's a different strategy. So there's a lot of things it affects. It'll be interesting to see how it goes.
Indeed. Well, that time will tell. I'm sure people will figure something out. There's still going to be stuff. And I tweeted about this as well. I mean, long time coming for this fix. I know you even said mind control still an issue. I'm curious to see how they fix that. Obviously it's not that easy to fix. If this is how they had to resolve this part, and mind control is still a bug, or can still bug, right? So that's unfortunate. I think we must ask the most important question, though, Jake, is what's one thing you would change? I think let's open it in the game. What's one thing you would change in World of Warcraft?
In World of Warcraft, okay. This is the most important question. It's the only one we ever truly ask with any real intent. And I think the one thing I would change is I would stop the reworks. I know it's a bit of a cringe thing to say, but I'm getting really tired of specs getting reworked and just coming out with the most amount of utility. And it's sad to say, I think it's a PvE problem, because they keep doing it for PvE reasons, but they give so much utility to specs now that when they translate into PvP, they're just godlike. It's crazy. Like the Paladin one and the Mage one. I didn't even realize this, by the way, Gerissar. They clear their snares by putting the shield on. So any slow you put on suddenly disappears because they put their shields on.
A mage?
Yeah.
So when a mage barriers, they get freedom. Oh, that is...
Yeah, that's it.
Oh, that's crazy. Gross. That's gross.
It's so gross. because you root someone and then they barrier and they're just moving freedom. Like they're moving freely. It's crazy. So I'm just a bit sick of the reworks, and I think the sheer amount of utility that is given to the specs when they are. But yeah, that is the one thing I would change. What about you, Gerissar?
This is tough. So I think we've complained about it before. I've said it before. I'm going to go back. I'm going to pull back on this one. Just with the training grounds, is that they need to implement something that actually gives feedback to the player. Just throwing a bunch of people into a battleground or an arena, and soon arena against bots, I don't think cuts it. It definitely makes a person feel like they're being successful and able to do stuff, but I think it's just is giving people positive reinforcement for bad behaviors, and it doesn't simulate well enough, and nor does it really teach. Right, you're not learning positioning. You're not learning a whack. You're not learning how to. You can't juke because the thing's basically insta kick you. I don't know. There's so much stuff there that it's. I'm glad that they put it in, but I feel like there's still a poor implementation, and it definitely needs iteration and improved upon. And again, players need to get feedback. So that's it. That's me.
Nope, I think that's fair. I think that's a really good thing to want.
Yeah. Last but not least, shoutouts.
Oof. Go on, Gerissar. You start. You never get to start.
I'm going to shout out Thorgood.
Oh.
Thorgood is a longtime listener, or so he says. Recently won the giveaway for our epic Midnight Code for his second account. And he's going to enjoy dual... I guess really dual boxing shuffle. We'll see. We'll see if he's actually doing it simultaneously or not. But yeah, he's a longtime listener, says loves the show, and was extremely happy to win our giveaway that we just finished. Tuesday, I guess it was, or Wednesday we finished it. Anyways, wow, time flies. Yeah. All right, on to you.
I'm going to shout out. I'm going to shout out Halinka. I saw that he was doing really well at Riot and that was enjoying his time there, but I made sure I would tweet him and say that we missed him here at WoW. I think he was very much underappreciated whilst here. So my shout out to him for being great and for all the help that he did over the years.
That's nice. He is missed. Definitely missed.
He is.
All right. It's that time. This was a little bit fast, but why don't we tell everybody where they can find us, Jake?
Absolutely. Well, guys, if you and girls and all the people that are listening to us, if you want to contact us, you can do so directly on X/Twitter at technically_PvP, or on Blue Sky at technicallypvp.bluesky.social, or by an email to technicallypvp@gmail.com. You can also join our discussions on our very own Discord, which I think is in the show notes if you want to join.
It is.
Correct me. We are also now hosted on Libsyn, so a link to the website will be in the show notes. Don't forget that the Bonus Roll website also has a podcast directory with us and many other great shows at www.bonusroll.gg. This directory has a review system too, so please head on over there and tell everyone what you think of your favorite shows, including our own.
Indeed. And like you said, just like with the Discord link, all the other ways you can find us, the links are in our show notes. And everybody, thanks for listening to us. Appreciate y'all. And I hope you have a wonderful night. Good night, everybody.